All right, so yeah, shall we get started? I'll hand it to you to get started then.
Okay, again, thanks for your patience, everybody, and thanks for joining. This is the North American version of our OKR mini summit, Objectives and Key Results. I'm Jon Leslie. I'm Agile coach and founder at Cove Insights. I'm also a Favro Agile partner and joined today by Patric Palm, who's the CEO and co-founder of Favro. Welcome, Patric.
Thank you. All right, so maybe first I shall say that, if you are participating in this and you're from Europe or anywhere else, you're also very welcome. It's just we picked two times, one a little bit more suitable for Europe and one a bit more for the US. But suitable is, of course, relative to, what your preferences are. Now, the background to that, we organized these two mini summits on OKRs, very short, just 30 minutes. Is that, we got an interesting question. So we have many Agile coaches around the world that we interact with that are using Favro as, their preferred tool when they're driving Agile transformations at companies that, are their clients. And one of them, he reached out to us and said, hey, what's your recommendation for like an OKR tool that maybe you're integrated with? I mean, Favro is integrated with many tools like Jira, Slack, things like this. And we were like, well, hold on a second. When it comes to organizing OKRs, Favro is probably the best tool in the world for that because it's so flexible. And let us demo this to you. So it was actually Jon here, who did a demo of this, to this Agile coach, and he was like, "Yeah, this is awesome. This is." I didn't think about that. So we thought, okay, we probably need to do a better job at spreading the word on how great Favro is for running OKRs. And I would say that this is very important with Favro here for two reasons. One is that the flexibility of Favro, it's really good for any kind of frameworks, especially as your implementation of this framework might change over time as the organization quite naturally changes. And it also means that it can adapt to whatever way you choose to implement it, because there's many different ways of doing this. But maybe more important is the fact that if you want to be successful with implementing OKRs, the perspective is not only kind of top down, it's also bottom up. It needs to be a collaborative effort, between management, and the teams. And it might actually be kind of several cascading, layers of how this works, with OKRs. And what I want to do now is just to show you, one of my favorite, images here. You might have seen this before, but this is basically the reason why companies are starting to use Favro. They want to go from a very command and control oriented organization with a high level of centralization of processes and tools into an organization that have agility, not only on a team level, but also between teams, with management, with externals, and the whole organization. And when this is what you want to achieve, the key here is collaborative planning, which is entirely what Favro is designed for. If you've ever been to our website, you might have seen this, and that Favro creates collaborative planning basically in four ways. It is within the team where Favro adapts to whatever way this team is working. It doesn't matter if it's marketing or product development or operations or HR or a leadership team. It can really be anyone. And then it is between teams. If you look at our most common customers, it's software as a service companies, it's game studios, and it's enterprises that are doing Agile transformations. And the big challenge today is to keep all these teams in sync in an autonomous way, where they autonomously align towards company goals or towards OKRs, if that is what you're using. So instead of the traditional kind of command and control where the manager is like a dictator, the manager today should be a modern leader and more of a facilitator. And for this to work in practice, you need collaborative planning between these teams. Now you have external partners where you don't want these external partners to feel like someone just throwing work over the wall to. You want them to feel like an extension of your team. And for that, you need this collaborative planning. And then finally, what it is that we're talking about here today, with management. So how do you create like a collaborative approach between the formulation of these OKRs and the process of breaking this down into actions to deliver on those key results? And what we're going to do now is to look at some practical examples of how this is done in Favro. So with that said, I'm going to hand back over to you, Jon.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Okay, so here we are in Favro, and this is an example that we were working with a Google team, and they basically brought OKRs into prominence. And this is essentially how they were using Favro to run their OKRs. So kind of almost coming directly from the source. As you can see here, a great kind of way to get started is to create a strategic level, maybe different department or team level OKR backlogs. And these are going to be the kind of central repository of your objectives and key results. Now, as Patrick said, they become very, very popular. A great way to create that alignment and then give the autonomy to the team. So management passing along the intent, and then the teams taking it from there, essentially. So you maintain that autonomy, but ensure the alignment along the way from the strategic level down to the team level. So the way this works, right? So OKRs, another reason why they're so popular is the format is so simple. So the objective, as you can see here, the objective should always be qualitative, right? And it should be something that's measurable in some way. And again, that's the overall goal. What is it that we want to achieve? And then the key results are the outcomes, the expected outcomes of that goal. And they're also how progress is measured towards the overall goal. So because of that, the key results should always be quantitative. There should be some way to specifically measure them. And most teams choose a measurement scale. Quite typically, it's just simply on a scale of from 0 to 100%. One of the key things with the key results is that you want them to be aspirational. You want them to be something that's difficult, if not impossible, to achieve at 100%. Oftentimes teams, an acceptable end at the end of the cadence period, acceptable percentage complete, if you're using a percentage scale, would be 70 to 80%, for example. So one of the most often overlooked aspects of OKRs, because I guess it's not in the acronym, is the task breakdown. And that's another big kind of reason to use Favro for your OKRs, is because it just makes sense to first create and plan and track your OKRs in the same platform where those key results are actually getting done, where progress towards those key results and those objectives is actually happening. And that happens with the task breakdowns of the KRs themselves, of those key results, the actual individual actions that team members are going to take to achieve that outcome. So here in this backlog, strategic level OKR backlog, you can see that we have objectives, and thanks to the unique nature of Favro backlogs, you have the ability to just in line break those objectives down into the key results. So the key results are going to live on a card. You could add more details, custom fields, again, those task breakdowns, which I'll get to in a minute. And so this new key result is broken down maybe by the team, or management is setting the KRs in conjunction with the team. They're going to prioritize this from a business priority, business value standpoint. You can drag and drop that maybe up to the top of the list, stacked ranked. That's the highest of the high priority KRs. And you're eventually going to want to track progress towards, say, recruit 5 new customer success representatives. And a really good way to do that is on a Favro board. So I'm going to reveal a couple more columns here in the backlog because I want to get across the point that because of the unique nature of Favro, where the cards can exist in multiple places at the same time, you're actually able to track the progress towards these key results and the objectives, not only on the backlog level, maybe across multiple teams, multiple departments, multiple whatever, from the backlog, you're also able to track them more specifically on the boards themselves. So I'll open up this OKR planning board here. And say the team, typically you want to have between 2 and 5 KRs per cadence period per objective. So you take this recruit 5 new customer success representatives, which is a breakdown of this research and improve customer success, customer satisfaction, and commit that to the board. So you can see it automatically changed the status to started. And here it's not started. As soon as it gets pulled into, maybe we've hired one of these 5 new customer success representatives, you're going to track that simply by pulling it into 20%. And you can see it automatically tags that there, maybe go to 40%, so on and so forth. And you're seeing that reflected back here in the backlog as well. So as far as breaking this down into tasks, at the beginning of that cadence period, you have a couple of options. So you can break it down into tasks directly on the card like this, even assigning at the task level who's going to do what. Like so. Or you even have the ability to break one of these down into a board of its own or a backlog of its own. So in the case for this recruit 5 new customer success representatives, for example, it might make sense to actually tie this directly to the recruitment team or the HR team. So to do that, what you can do is come up here, say, break down to board, right? Click that, and I've already done it. I've broken it down to this recruitment board. And so if I click on this, I could go directly to it. Boards in Favro can exist in multiple places. So maybe HR is working on it, but you also have a recruitment agency working on this effort, all tied back to this key result. So if I jump to this, I have it also directly here on this board, just for example's sake, down here. And you can see that this is linked back to that key result. So it's easy to drill down from the key result down into the actual progress. Here, indicated in a very visual way, this is our actual recruitment pipeline. And so here are the 3, maybe 4 new customer success representatives that have actually made it through this entire flow to actually being hired. All, of course, again, linked back up to the KR. Another common way of handling the KRs is that maybe management is setting the KRs ahead of time. So say maybe something like this, reach monthly recurring revenue of 750,000. Okay, so we'd want to take that again, drag that onto the board like so, and you can see that automatically flagged as started. And instead of breaking it down into a board, another common practice is let the team now take it from here and break this down instead to a backlog. So we break it down, maybe put it down here on the left-hand pane, turn this into a sheets view. And now this backlog, if you will, is linked back to this key result of reaching that monthly recurring revenue of 750,000. And now it would be the team's responsibility to break this down in an autonomous way to the various actions tasks, experiments to actually make this happen. Maybe assigning these specific things now to very, very individual cards for the team members one by one to take action on, or maybe multiple team members assigned to each one of these actions, experiments, tasks. And again, this is now linked back again to that key result. Now you could take one of these and even add it to that team's board. So you could say, okay, well, this may also be live here on this OKRs collection, but you might want to add it to the actual team level collection. So you might want to give this to a sales team like this, say add here. And now that key result can be broken down further and taken action. Maybe these could be dragged on to a sales Kanban board or sprint board, whatever the case may be. Again, linked back up to that key result. Okay, so say we're at the end of a cadence period and you want to have that retrospective, right? So you want to know, how did we do as far as meeting each one of these? So of course you can look at the board and see where you ended up. Did everything roughly fall into that 60 to 80% sweet spot of completion? And then back here in the backlog, since the cards exist in multiple places, you can also track it from here. Maybe you've entered custom fields such as starting percentage, ending percentage. Where do we actually end up? Those can be through automations. These can automatically be tagged back to the ending percentage on the board, and then have that retrospective conversation, maybe even taking into consideration if you broke down that KR, each one of those KRs into tasks. So this one, for example, you can see, yep, we hit 80%. We completed all the tasks. Did we actually meet the kind of intent of that KR? Yes. Yes, 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 here as well too. Did we meet the overall goal? Management's going to chime in on this, obviously, yes or no. So this is a great way also directly from the backlog to run those end of OKR cadence period retrospectives. Now, the last thing I want to show you is this concept of multi-level, or sometimes called aligned objectives and key results. So say, for example, you have an overall strategic level objective of increase mobile market share. And you need to break that down into the individual team level. So maybe something like increase market awareness in Europe would be one of the breakdowns of that strategic level objective. So we can simply use the power of the hierarchy in the backlog here, make that essentially a child, an aligned objective of this parent objective, and then commit this to a team level backlog simply via drag and drop. So I could take this, move it down to this, or add it to this marketing. OKR backlog here, which I already did, and then break that down, then maybe allow the team, or maybe it was broken down ahead of time, into those KRs that support, track the outcomes and the progress of this child objective of increased market awareness in Europe with the parent up here. So as this changes from to do to doing, again, via automations, you can have it automatically change up here on the strategic level, on the strategic OKR backlog, because everything in Favro is linked with the cards existing in multiple places, and automations actually updating statuses at higher levels or on other teams' boards. So those are just a couple of examples of how you could potentially run your objectives and key results in Favro. Because the tool is so flexible, you could, of course, choose to do this in a different way. So that's everything that I wanted to cover in the time that we have, and I'll pass it back to you, Patrick.
All right, thank you so much. I really like how you're using automations, there in an elegant way. Automations have definitely become, a very popular capability of Favro since we, launched that quite recently. I also want to mention, that practice you were showing where, management might have set, the OKR, and the team takes the key result and breaks it down into a backlog and add it to their own collection, and basically run it as part of their own kind of workflow and uses that kind of as a backlog. One example when this works really good in practice is, let's say, a marketing team that are using kind of growth hacking techniques, where that backlog is basically like a list, a prioritized list of experiments that that you want to try, where each of this experiment has an hypothesis of this is something that will improve that key result. But maybe you don't know, so you're trying that experiment and you're trying the next. Okay, one of them worked great. You're kind of like doubling down on that, etc. So to be able to actually do that kind of work in a very nice way in practice, I think you kind of showed here that Favro is very, very powerful for that. So with that said, thank you so much for tuning in to this little mini summit. If you go to favro.com/webinars, you will see that we got many others. We got some upcoming ones on recruitment, for example, but we also have some recorded ones from recent months that might be very interesting for you. So check that out. Thank you so much. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.